Hey, hello everybody. Welcome to Sonictalk episode 811. We've got a special guest for you this week, as well as a couple of usual panelists. This is the Music Technology Podcast. We talk about all things to do with music tech, whether that be software, hardware, instruments, recording, synthesizers, touring, streaming, anything to do with the whole kind of ecosystem surrounding it. Oh gosh, I can't move around too much. I've got very bad compression. I'm pixelating. Help me. I want to say thank you very much to everybody in the chat. Always good to see you there. Nice to see Wagyu, who is always there dealing with the the back end and keeping the pesky trolls out. Very much appreciated. Does it for a lot of people. And also a few familiar faces. Paul LeBlanc, Man with Beard, Andrew Brooks, Robath, Melt with Cheese, Tassofi Music. I haven't seen you before. And yeah, so welcome everybody. Before we get started, I'm just going to paste a little ad for our Patreon because we've got some new stuff. Hey, why not consider joining us on Patreon? We've got a whole bunch of stuff there. Even at the lower tier, we've got access to ad-free and pre-show for Sonictalk. Also, actually, all levels get a free mock mini-ray synth, which is well worth checking out. We've got a whole lot of things there as well. We've actually introduced a new tier, which introduces some new benefits. Archives are available to the Superstar and the New Star tier. Audio files to the new Superstar tier. There's sounds and patches, 360 videos, all kinds of collections of stuff. And also we've got a Sonicstate membership map, which is an optional thing that you just get the rough approximation of where people are in the world. It's kind of a bit of fun. That's star level and above. And don't forget, if you join before the end of the show, you'll get your name in lights, which will show up in the credits. Superstar level will get you a special mention, so please do consider joining us. And while we're at it, we want to thank the superstars who joined us last week. That's Chris X, Campari and Soda, Affin Audio, FR Dave, Edmund Egan, Colin Olkins, Truck, Warren Harrison, Di Stanton, Jack, Sonic Link, Stephen Harvey and the Free Radical. Thanks once again. Back to the show. Yes, indeed. Back to the show. So, yes, we launched new tiers. We've also launched YouTube memberships, which is just for emojis and stuff this week. So we just need a few more members. The more members we get, the more emojis we can load up. So John Birch has been making a whole bunch, so they'll be fun to join in on. So if you fancy hitting the join button, it's just a 99p level, because we'll be bringing some other levels in to make it parity with Patreon at some point in the future. Anyway, let's introduce our guests. We'll start in the UK, starting with, everybody's in a place beginning with B. Wow. Birmingham, it's Paulee Alex Bow. How are you?
How are we doing? Yeah, I'm not bad, thanks. I've been stupid busy, but that's good. Doing various videos and bits for Sonicstate and articles and things like that, but I like to stay busy, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Idle hands are the devil's plaything. Basically.
Oh, but really?
I'm really looking forward to the show today. You know, it's cool.
Excellent.
I hear we got a special guest and everything.
We have got a special guest, of course. We've been trailing it everywhere. Well, lovely. Oh, that's the wrong button to press. Anyway, beg your pardon. Nice to see you as well, Matt, aka Maths.
Hello.
Of course, just done the Night Verb review for us, which we have the epic director's cut of an hour and 40 minutes. We had to trim down all the reverb tails to get it shorter because they were so long that it just lasted such a long time. I'm sure our other guests will understand what it's like to review a long reverb, because it just takes so long. Anyway, you good, Matt?
Yeah, I'm all right. Yeah, for that video, I basically spoke 3 times, and the rest of it is just reverb tails for an hour. So it's well worth checking out. If you're not a patron, I know you've just said this, Nick, but if you're not, get on there and check it out. It's a great video. I've been super busy as well, same as Paulee, doing a lot of content creation, brand awareness for different music production companies. Just finished a project off with Arturia, which is cool. Actually, I've got that finish off this afternoon. In between studios, hence why I'm in front of my what looked like empty Eurorack.
Was it garage doors?
Or, no? Well, if I open this door, no, I shouldn't tell.
It's a wardrobe. It's a wardrobe, isn't it?
There's someone in. It's not. A wardrobe. Yeah,
just livestock in there. Yeah.
Don't want to get arrested. Keep it clean, folks. Keep it clean. Right. Excellent. Well, lovely to have you, Matt. And, of course, we'll now join our other guest who's joining us from, Georgia, quite a long way away. Yeah. It's only Ben Jordan. How are you, Ben?
How are you? I'm good. Yeah, I'm good. I'm tired, but that's normal for me, so that's great. Yeah.
Is it early where you are? Did we get you up at the crack of dawn for this one, or is it not too bad?
No, well, I have a farm now, so I wake up at the crack of dawn to do farm
Wow.
work. But yeah, it's it's 11 a.m. So I'm totally
Oh
fine now.
wow!
Yeah,
But you've
yeah.
been up since kind of 4 o'clock, milking cows and stuff, right, or whatever it is that you have to do in a farm. I don't know what kind of farm you have, so I mean, I'm making all sorts of suppositions.
yeah.
Is it like an old MacDonald kind of farm, or is it just very more specialised, more of a small holding?
It's kind of on top of a small mountain right outside of Atlanta. It's kind of iconic.
Wow.
It's like it sounds way more iconic and expensive than it actually is. But yeah, it's like on top of this mountain right outside of Atlanta, right outside of Bankhead, and yeah, and it just seems like it's really remote. It seems like the type of place that you'd be in the middle of nowhere to get to, but it's just strangely a little bit less developed in this area. And I have 8 chickens, and I have a lot of plants and just things like rainwater and just feed and things like that. Just there's a lot of plants and a lot of stuff that just needs management. So I try and cut that into a little slice every morning. And honestly, I love it. I love tending land. So.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
It's something. Yeah, in the UK, we just don't have any land. I mean, there's just no room. Unless you're actually a landowner, like maybe kind of old money. There's no room. You end up in a tiny little house with a garden the size of a kind of handkerchief. Most of us, But I mean, obviously, there are variants of that. But yeah, the idea of I love the idea of having something that I could kind of go. You know what? I'm going to put up like a solar panel over there. I'm going to have a running water electric generation system. I'm going to do all of these things. I'd love to do all of that, but sadly, it's just not compatible with the place I chose to live or my lifestyle. But one day maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I suppose you'd have to move north or something, right, to be able to do that in the UK, or maybe out to Cornwall or something.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah. I would guess so. So you're in your studio. This is the new studio. I saw you had a video, which was I built a studio in a barn. I guess this is the studio in the barn, and that's the
this is the mix room.
Paulee Bow 12 as well, right? Okay,
yeah,
cool.
that's a Paulee Bow 12. The next video I have is literally just a Paulee Bow performance. Well, I mean, it's within different rooms with different instruments. It's in my living room of my house where there's a piano and stuff like that. And then in here, I was just using it with the Paulee Bow 6, both of them layered. And wow, yeah, that was a great. Yeah, I mean, I love the Paulee Bow. There's no surprise to that to anybody who watches my channel. And Paulee Bow 12 is no different. It's a little better than the Paulee Bow 6 in my opinion, and it's a great. Yeah.
Can I ask a question on the studio setup, Ben, if that's all right, Nick?
Yeah.
I was just kind of interested because every time, I'm in the middle of moving a studio, as I mentioned. Every time I come to do a studio setup, obviously it's usually got a different configuration, different purposes that I'm doing, whether I'm writing something for moving image or whether it's just a techno haven. And, sometimes I spend so long on the cabling, the wiring, patch bays. So I've got uber configuration, hands reach. I can plug this synth into that pedal but I'm kind of thinking of doing away from all of that moving forward and just kind of having, a bit more of a lackadaisical approach where I've just kind of got stuff around and I'm going to pick this up today and I'm going to plug that into there today. And and it might be a bit more messy, but I'm just thinking about the amount of time it's going to save me in terms of patch bays and wiring configurations. And instead it might make for a bit more of a creative environment. So
I designed this studio around that premise. Yeah, literally around the same premise, especially the way that I work. My workflow is extremely disorganized and extremely impulsive, and I just grab things. And so probably the best find that I had, or the two best things I could think of, one of them is I installed mounts and plugs all over the ceiling, basically. So if I want to, I could just get on a stepladder and mount a microphone pole or a camera or a light or whatever coming down, which makes it a lot easier. I don't have to use the floor space as much for things like mic stands and lighting stands, which take an enormous amount. And the other one is I bought this. It's not, I don't think it's really in my video. Maybe I should have actually put a bigger thing about it, but it's a giant drawer system that's like an open-ended drawer system. So all the drawers have open ends, and it's made for a pick and assemble factory, where if somebody's basically it's just made for factory work. So it's these big, really rugged, hard plastic gray drawers that you could just put label cables in, and you just walk up, you see where everything is immediately, you pull it out. It's not hard to open or close. You could just tilt it down. And that so far has been great. Like literally before this, I plugged in this mic and I was like, oh, I need an XLR cable. I opened one drawer. I knew where it was because I saw it right there. And so it makes cleaning up, like last night, for example, I had the Paulee Bow over by my V drums over here, and I had that all wired up into the modular and, cleaned it up in probably 3 minutes. Whereas before it would have been this whole, I would have procrastinated and it still would have been over there. So.
It's interesting. I was going to ask you about this because, it leads on to a question about just studio design in general, because we see all these kind of I think the last one, what was the one that Brad Pitt owns in the south of France, which is just delightfully kind of white and, kind of curved, and everything's mounted. And you just think, well, what happens when you buy a piece of gear? I mean, where does it go? You have to reorganize the whole thing. You have to call the engineers to rewire it. It's so stressful to get an installation right, especially if you're likely to be changing your setup in any way whatsoever, that it just makes it's much better, I think, the approach you've taken, and that's what I would tend to go with.
Well, it's funny because like you see pictures of these prestigious studios and like Hans Zimmer's studio and all this stuff, and I wonder like how much of that does it really look that way all the time, or is that just the one shot where it looks that clean and now it's an utter disaster because it's being used, or is it not being used and Hans Zimmer is just writing his scores on a laptop, in bed?
Well,
all I'm saying is he was very, very into that Mini Moog VST plugin, wasn't he? Like,
that's true.
Super into it. So that's all I'm saying. Not saying anything else. Yeah,
but the wall of modular is to get the gig, isn't it? When you get the film company executives turn up and they go, "Wow, look at this! This guy really is." It's client acquisition as well. I would imagine. I may be being a bit overly cynical, but because I know he does occasionally listen to this podcast.
I love you, really.
But I'm sure it's less hassle. Obviously,
a funny thing about the modulars in my last space, I had keyboards behind me and a piano behind me and some guitars behind me, and then the modular was kind of over here. And on multiple occasions, when I do a video where I'd have like a Zoom meeting with a scientist or a researcher or doctor, they would mention the keyboards and be like, "Oh wow, you're really into music. Wow, you've." I'm like, "Yeah, I have a whole career about it." And then I'd pan over to the modular, and like immediately it seemed like they took me more seriously or something, like just because it looked complicated. And they're like, "Oh wow, what's that?" Okay, and and I was like, "Oh yeah, there's logic gates and there's an analog computer on the side of it, and there's and then all of a sudden I got a little bit more rapport for showing all the knobs and ins and outs, and because it looked complicated."
How about listening sweet spots, Ben?
Acoustic. Well, I was going to put that. There's that. How about sound acoustics? Dual Trick says in the chat. So same question, really. But good question.
Yeah.
Do you treat it, or do you just? Go.
So I guess mine goes a little bit further in that. Depending where you are in the room, you might not be in front of your speakers. You're not really getting stereo image. Yes, you could use your headphones. Maybe you're relying on that a lot. But was that a big thing in that room? Was it just kind of like, no, my speakers are just going to go over there, and I'm sat in a room. I'm still going to I'm going to hear what's coming out. I'm not going to worry about it too much.
I had the fortune of being able to design the room itself. So like this room didn't exist 3 months ago. It wasn't a structure. So I was able to actually draw it out and then calculate how a sonic crystal would work to make the room somewhat, and by sonic crystal, I mean rafters on the ceiling that are very strategically placed for where speakers would go and then where sounds would bounce around. And so ideally, it should sound, if you had an Atmos system in here, I believe it can fit a 7 point something. Ideally, with an Atmos system in here, there should be no weird spots. However, my calculations were a little bit off, and there was like 2 over there, and when actually walking around and testing it, and then I just had to kind of do the trial and error thing, just walking around, clapping, listening to audio, hanging new panels, But fortunately, the way that I hung up the rafters, I put them on turnbuckles, so I could actually move them and tilt them slightly. So it's actually a little bit more modular than it would be if they were hung by standard wire or something like that.
Oh, interesting. I wonder also, because now the DSP in many monitoring systems is able to just kind of go, don't worry about it. We'll just tune it out in the tuning system for the which is astonishing. I mean, I've spoken this for ages. I used to use these little Genelec 1020s, and they were top of the range, you know, for a while. I mean, 20 years ago I bought them, the metal ones, and then I got I tested a few sets of monitors, and I ended up with the IK Loud MTM Mark IIs. And I just put them in front of me and I was like, crikey, what have I been listening to for the 20 years? The speaker technology has changed so enormously with all the sort of phase alignment and whatnot and the error correction. I don't use any of that in these because I think they just sound way better than my original Genelecs in this space. So I don't know, and this room is terribly tuned. So I suppose you could sort of get away with that a bit. Ultimately,
I think that is one really good takeaway, is that some monitors work in some spaces, some don't in others. That's kind of funny because I was about to say my iLouds in my old space and in this space did not do that well. I was excited about it and I kind of was let down. So now I have them back there on the modular, and then here I have the Kali Audios, which blew me away. I was amazed. Especially for the price. It was like, wow, I don't know what they're doing right, but yeah.
Yeah, I know. Interesting. I've not come across those before. Okay, well, look, I'm going to interject here. We'll be back in a second with the topic that I have for the show, and we'll just kind of continue with the freeform. But in the meantime, we'll just have a little word from our friends over at iZotope.
In a world full of noise, cut through with iZotope RX11, the complete suite of audio repair tools for post-production, music, and content creation. Powered by cutting-edge machine learning and industry-first technology. This is everything you need to clean up your audio in seconds. Fix flaws with laser precision and release your tracks with confidence. RX11, the definitive toolkit for audio repair.
Yeah, and don't forget, you can save 10% on all purchases by going over to iZotope.com/Sonictalk. We've got a special page and everything. And if you use the code SONIC10, it says there, they will honour that on software purchases. So well worth checking out. Thanks very much to the continued support. Right, okay, we have the topic. This dropped yesterday, and I have to admit, I thought it was an April Fool's or a August Fool's. So let's just have a little list. This video I'm playing, I think, is actually from Gear for Music, where it's almost like a comedy show where they're playing straight. So let's just see if it'll play. Let's have a look. Probably not going to play. Excellent. Thank you very much. This is where my technological... here we go. Let's just do that one. Yep, it's the Teenage Engineering Medieval, complete with Latin script, a Latin sort of fonted LED as well,
Hi there,
or
welcome
LCD.
Back to the Gear for Music studio. My name is Rick, and today I am joined by Joe from Teenage Engineering, and we're checking out the brand new Medieval sampler. It's got a lot of different features, and it looks very different as well in comparison to the KO, which was again another sampler that was.
They're playing it so straight. I'm thinking they're trying to do that for comedic purposes, but actually I watch it in and they're literally, nobody's going, what the hell is this? This is crazy. What made you think about it? You know. But anyway, yeah, this is the news of the KO. What's it called? It's the I can't remember what serial number. It's 1320, I think, which I believe is actually a medieval date. I thought it was more the 1400s, so one of my puns in the news item just didn't work, so I have to kind of withdraw that. I might have to rewrite it. But yeah, 299. I mean, I've got the KO2 here, which I actually think is brilliant. I've used it recently. I use it for just sort of putting together beats and messing around. I really like the gloopy sort of sound, a bit lacking in top end, but really fantastic. And I guess if you want sort of medieval hip-hop compression, maybe this is the place to go. But it's got hurdy-gurdies, lutes, Gregorian chants, thundering drums, percussive Foley effects. That's the 1320. A large library of phrases, play-ready instruments. Yeah, it's 299, same thing. And it just seems like they were just... I think several people have said they just got stoned on a Friday and then it became a thing, and perhaps it never meant to, but now it is, and they can't really help themselves. I know, Ben. I'm kind of glad. I don't know how you feel about Teenage Engineering stuff. Obviously their stuff is very It's delightfully enjoyable, if a little overpriced. I'm talking about the table, obviously, but generally speaking, it's just great that something like this exists, I suppose. I mean, where else are you going to find this kind of stuff? It feels very unique.
It's a bit of a there's a negative and a positive to it. The negative to it is I'm like, how far are we going to go outside of consumer demand to avoid innovating? And then on the other side, it's like we are going to interesting places to avoid innovating that aren't just making TR-808 clones, and clones of synths, which is just something that I'm just frankly a little bored with. I get the fetishism of it, but I'm also just like, yeah, come on, make some new stuff. I want some new stuff. I want new ideas. So I'm not sure what my take. I will definitely play with one should I enter a synth store that has one or something like that. But I thought it was a joke at first too.
It's crazy. I mean, that they play a couple of the sounds in that video, and it's sort of these strings, and they're not great, to be honest. And they're going, yeah, fantastic, and you go, okay, right. I think the thing is, it's probably worth getting for if you're a collector. It's probably a healthier collection than having to spend $5,000 on an original mini Moog. You could just get a pocket opera. But I wonder where they'll go. Do you think we'll get maybe a polka one next, or a klezmer or something like that? I don't know. What do you think, Matt? I feel like I want one, but because I really like the format.
Yeah, I was actually just looking up to see what happened on 1320 AD, but nothing of great significance. Yeah, have you noticed as well? They've done the medieval quilt bag that you can get with this as well.
Oh, sweet!
So kind of same sort of vibe.
What would it be like? Made from original singlet material. Bodkin.
And there's some speculation going around on the old internet from Ricky Tenez, who says that the buttons smell like chocolate, and apparently he's not kidding. People are saying what, and he's saying he's dead serious. So I don't know if he's trolling us there, but
you can get scented plastics. You can get scented plastics. Maybe it's a thing. Yeah. Why? I mean, you'd think medieval it would be rotting vegetables and cow manure, surely, or pig manure. That would be much more appropriate. But yeah,
it's so interesting, isn't it? As well, one of the things that grabbed me was like you've got this very contemporary, the teenage engineering design who they work with that amazing designer. Forget the person's name. And then you've got that aesthetic mixed with this medieval font. They've even changed the LED display to kind of have indentations on it. So they've really gone for it. And I don't know. It's, the idea about this being a sampler in its first iteration anyway means that you can load it up with any sound you want.
Yeah, exactly.
Polka sounds or medieval sounds or farmland sounds if you live where Ben lives. But so why would they go, okay, let's make this medieval theme one? And it's PR.
It's just press. Really. It's got to be press. I would imagine. I mean, I think the thing is also, you notice this one looks a lot like a very specific 70s calculator. I think the new medieval one looks more like that Commodore one. There was a Commodore calculator. So I think they're riffing on some really sort of the brown plastic of the 70s as well. I mean, I think I like the fact that they're having fun. I don't know, Paulie, it's sort of, I don't know, brown is okay, isn't it? As we've seen, there are several instruments. I mean, it'd go with your Amigas quite nicely, wouldn't it?
Oh, it would, the beigeness of it all. No, it's all down. I need to read the patch list because if it doesn't have a crumb horn in it, it's not worth anything to me.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Very specific needs from my medieval sound library, so there we go.
That's fun. You know what? I used to work for a theatre company, and they used to do this tour of Scarlatti's birthday party was their thing, and they had a virtuoso, like I get whistle recorder player, and he would play basically the Paganini, load of Paganini stuff, and whip out. He had like a penny whistle, a piccolo whistle, a slide whistle, a crumb horn. All of it. So I know what a crumb horn is like. It's like
amazing.
A kind of bent recorder. Just in case those who don't know, look it up somewhere. Yeah,
you can play a recorder around corners.
You mentioned
exactly. Yeah.
You mentioned polka, Nick. So if they do a polka one, I want John Candy's character in Home Alone, Gus Polinski, polka king of the Midwest.
Polka, polka.
Polka, 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 Yamahuzi polka, Twin Lakes polka, Kiss Me polka, Acapulco twist. So he needs to be on the front of that, with his Kenosha kickers kind of thumbs up if they do a polka one. But I like a bit of, life is hard and I like a bit of a fun distraction. So thumbs up from me.
Yeah.
And it's on this one.
Exactly. And it's not like $1,600, it's actually,
and you
for,
can put,
for teenage engineering, reasonably. Yeah.
You can put serious samples in as well,
Yeah.
And then just use some of the medieval instruments in a kind of fun way, I guess.
I think that this, because I'm pretty sure that the KO2 does not support looped samples, so maybe this is a firmware update. So because there's a looping instrument, I mean, maybe it does, but I haven't seen a way that it does with the editor, and perhaps some of the effects are different. Have you tried a KO, Ben?
I actually have not.
Wow.
I wanted to get one, and then it's kind of the same thing happens whenever Nintendo releases something. There's like that sort of manufactured shortage that happens right when it first comes out, where like they sell out and then you can't get it, and then by the time they do have it in stock, I'm completely
it's gone by. Yeah.
You know what I just got? Or it's literally at my old house because I ordered it in like January or something, and it's literally sitting on the porch of my old house. The Seek Track, which is kind of a similar to the Yamaha Seek Track, that little thing. If anybody remembers that from a whole 7 months ago. So I'm kind of excited to finally get my hands on one of those because I put in the order forever ago, and so maybe I'll check it out on a stream or something. But similar to a KO.
It's got some cool FM stuff in. I think you only get macro control over the FM, but I think, you get enough to do some cool 4-op FM kind of Sega Genesis kind of twang. So that should be fun. With the sequencer,
And it works with an iPad, right?
Yeah. I think it does,
yes, but an iPad editor.
It is a Yamaha, so therefore the UI and the UX is going to be some very Yamaha, which is not necessarily as straight ahead. I mean, I know Ben, you've kind of been involved in some of the montage stuff, so you're probably really au fait. Oh. You speak Yamaha fluently, so you'll probably get on with it fine.
Well, I think one thing that some people miss is that Yamaha is a very Japanese company. And they have there's a style. Japanese has there's a Japanese style of workflow and interface and stuff, and it's very prominent in their synthesizers, and it's very prominent in the structure of the company working for them. It's very different than working for like a European or American company. At first, it can be it can be frustrating, but it's understandable how the company works and how the company stays in business for over 100 years. It makes a lot of sense. But yeah, I've done a lot of editing for montage stuff and a lot of work for the montage, the new montage, the Montage M. But yeah, I didn't know the existence of the Seek Track until it was announced. The company's very good at keeping secrets. So I would occasionally leave my FTP folder and go look at other things, but I didn't know anything about it. They also use like code names and stuff, so I had no idea.
We'll ever see them combine a Yamaha motorbike and an instrument in one, or something.
And an MRI machine, an
MRI,
they have
and golf clubs.
Yeah, they have a whole
and network switches. I went to when we went to Hamamatsu several years back for the I think it was 50 years of Yamaha. It was a great weekend away. I mean, I have to say, it's one of my favorite ever trips. I mean, we don't, people assume all the time, or it used to be all the time, that, journalists would get sort of flown to far-flung corners of the world and wined and dined for days. That's happened like twice in my 30-year career, both by Yamaha, I might add. And we went there, and the Yamaha Innovation Road is truly magnificent because you get all of the classic stuff, but then you also get like network switches, hockey sticks, golf clubs, just things that you just didn't know they made. They make kitchen work surfaces. So when we were in the hotel, I thought, I went in and there's the bathroom and it's all kind of very nice, and it's got a little Yamaha badge on the bathroom furniture, and I'm like, do they own the hotel? And I asked the guy, and they said, no, we make that stuff as well. And it's just like, because their background is very much sort of craftsmanship, isn't it? And it's all about sort of,
Yeah, and they're kind of they're a bit minimalists when it comes to like a business sense, like, because I always used to be like, why don't they do this? Why don't they innovate more? Why don't they get back on top? And their sort of mantra is, well, we've been playing it safe and we've been in business for this long, so we're not going to change that. And so they've dealt with they've done the slow growth. And another thing that they're really good at is reliability. Like, their gear is incredibly well tested. Like, it's very rare. I'm not saying that there isn't situations where Yamaha stuff can be buggy, but in my experiences, it seems like Yamaha is something that you would want for a stage performance, for something like that, where like you're putting everything, you're really trusting a piece of gear. But yeah, sort of back to my original point, like another thing is with Zoom recorders and like Zoom workflows, like that's also very Japanese, and like it just translates kind of poorly to us over here in the West.
Yeah, it is a field recorder when things need to happen fast and you need to get at them is generally the perceived wisdom in such situations, but not necessarily what you get from all Japanese-based field recorders. You get the quality of that. I mean, I use this. I'm still a massive fan of the PodTrack P4, which I think is going to be, I don't know if it's going to be superseded. I hope so, in that it gets better. That's a great little unit. It's just super useful for everything. Okay, well, I think that's the topic. So basically now we're totally off piste. Oh, Matt. Yeah, go.
Something which might segue us into a conversation, and I don't know if you want to go down this avenue of AI, but looking at the teenage engineering video that announces that new medieval.
Yes,
I've been looking at it and wondering, is this part AI? Is it been filmed? I mean, I know they've probably got the budget to go out and film this, but you've got like a horse with a circle of fire around it, and all these dudes walking around with these amazing outfits on, and at first
it's like Midsummer, isn't it?
Sat there thinking, is this AI or is this real? And then I got to the point where I was thinking, does it matter? And and I guess this same thing about some of the music that I'm hearing as well about AI, and starting to ask myself, does it matter that it's AI? I don't know if you want to go down that rabbit hole. But.
Well, I tell you what, I had a link which was kind of because Ben did a video, you did a video on the Yamaha Genos. I'll just play a tiny bit of that. I'm assuming nothing's going to work, but I'll give it a shot. What the heck? I think that was that should be this button here, and it may or may not work. We'll just see. Yeah, probably not. There we go. Well, that's fine. It just seems to be one of those days. I'll just press this button.
Keyboard. Is that an age restriction? The CPU specs are a little bit underwhelming. The
really?
Are kind of limited. No, the samples and sounds aren't all that realistic. The keys aren't fully weighted, but it's a piece of gear that I've been
So this is a piece that you did on the Genos, and I think we've talked about these Arranger keyboards for a while. Actually, we've covered the Tyros, the various incarnations, and they get bigger and bigger and bigger, and they are they're sort of based on the market where people used to spend, 10 grand on a home organ, which would be really, really big and really huge. And I guess these are a sort of these take it out on the road, your wedding singers, your whatever, but they're really kind of complex. And I just got, because one of the things that you were talking about, Ben, which is quite, you abuse it beautifully with the polka techno and really high and all of the MIDI out and stuff. That looks like a lot of fun. I mean, first of all, how was it to use? Is it a kind of an easy thing to get your head around, or once you speak Arranger, can you kind of speak any Arranger?
Honestly, yeah, it was pretty easy. I don't think I had to open the manual at any point. The interface was pretty understandable, which nice. I think, and it was the same with the Korg, the PA. I can't remember the last two numbers there. PA5X. But yeah, it was sort of the same thing for both of them, because it is made for a performance. So everything is kind of right up there in an easy to access menu. And then both of them even have HDMI outs if you want to like output information chords, or if you want to
karaoke lyrics
or things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that can also be helpful. I didn't use that in my videos, but that would be exciting if I were using that for a live performance. I'm sure I would probably put use to the HDMI out stuff. The one thing that the Korg had that the Genos 2 didn't have was a guitar input. I really liked the guitar input. I thought that was like, wow, I could really play a wedding or a restaurant. Like I could really take advantage of like my guitar ability and my keyboard ability and my terrible voice, and we could have a whole show. Whereas the Genos, I would have to bring something else.
Right. I suppose the whole thing that this kind of introduced me to the notion, because I mean, as we know, generative AI is a massive topic at the moment. I mean, it's a huge kind of, it's really kind of shaking things up. But I mean, it seems like those kind of high-end arranger keyboards are the primo. That is surely where we're going to see it being injected quickest, because ultimately, like you say, the programming and the knowledge required to test and I don't know how it's built, whether it's from MIDI files. There's all sorts of presumably rules and some sort of scripting that has to happen under the hood that is insanely complex for all of these different styles. It would feel like that would be something that AI could absolutely just kind of nail to a degree. If you just go, okay, I want this, press the button, it goes up to whatever the Yamaha server, or maybe what's the other one, the what's the big one, Sumo or something like that, and just comes back, give me the data, do all of that stuff, and it just sort of gets an XML file and goes, right, well, I know how to feed that into my arranger rules, let's go. I don't know, what do you think? I mean, there are a lot of questions there, I realise. But
no, I feel like there's it's kind of funny, because I feel like AI is often not used in places where it should be, or where it would make sense to use it, and it's often used in these more ambiguous places. And I think the reason for that is because the people who are raising the most funds for it, they're not actually deep under the hood working on something as specific as an arranger keyboard. They don't even know what an arranger keyboard is, so they're just like, we're going to replace music, like what? Well, that's
as a whole,
that's kind of a crazy, whereas like there would be, well, I mean, a really good example, something that I've thought about from the beginning, as soon as Google's Magenta, one of the early audio AI engines, came out. I thought about, wow, this is going to transform everything, because we're going to be able to listen to a violinist's performance and then apply all of those transients and through some physical modeling and additive synthesis, we're going to completely, the Kontakt libraries are going to be done. There's no point in having them now that we have something that can study the performance and then translate it to additive synthesis and physical modeling. Like, why would we ever sample again? This is perfect. And nobody's done it. It's not even been, it's been, 13 years now, and the idea hasn't really even been explored to my knowledge. And I think that's just because the capital required to...
Yeah, it's too niche.
to hire ML programmers, it just isn't trickling into those areas. So probably
it's
not
interesting.
The next generation, at least, but yeah.
But we have talked about this. I mean, isn't it? I mean, it's sort of like I say, I think generative AI is that's the party trick you have to play to the VC fund. So they go, wow, take my money. And it's the same. I've spoken to CEOs of sort of large music tech companies, and I'm sure you've done the same thing, where they go, as soon as you get I don't know, Stevie Wonder or somebody who can shred in a room and then say, can I have your money? It always works better, because they go, wow, that was really impressive. Where do I write the check? Even though there's no substance, or not probably enough substance, and because it's kind of an interesting assistive is the nuts and bolts, and is where there's no money. I know, Matt, you kind of tried to steer it in this direction. Have you got any thoughts on this? So I should come to you too. I mean, it's a very broad topic. I realise that.
Where do you want to start? I mean,
how about AI arranger keyboards?
Well, arrangers and workstations are just something that's never really been in my vocabulary. But I suppose the leading question on utilizing AI in something like that is, what do you want the AI to do? What's its usefulness in something like an arranger? Would it be its ability to know when you want it to go to the next part of the arrangement without telling it? And how does that happen? They're the kind of questions that come to my mind when
D-Beam, obviously,
implementing AI. Sorry,
D-Beam. I mean, of course. I mean, that's what gesturally. Yeah, okay. There you go. Yeah. Ben will demonstrate now the perfect D-Beam movement. Yeah, that was the exactly
that whole. Yeah.
And then exactly. I guess the other thing is as well, and I think Ben just picked up on this as well, is the people who are kind of implementing AI maybe perhaps are not musicians themselves. And I think we are seeing also a growth of the user base of AI who are not predominantly musicians or music producers, but for the first time they're using AI software to actually produce and make music. So they're kind of non-musicians, non-producers using software to make music for the first time. And for maybe for some of us, I don't know, I'm speaking on my behalf really, someone who's been a long time music producer, who's been working predominantly in DAWs and hardware and software, I'm kind of feeling like I don't want to have to go to another place to work with audio software, AI I'm talking about. I don't want to jump out of Ableton and have to go to this website that I'm subscribing $30 a month to or whatever to do something like that. I'm already working in different zones. So the users of AI is interesting, and this input of non-musicians, non-music producers making music for the first time, going, I want to be a music producer. Great, there's an app that does it for me now. I have no idea.
It's like the iPad had the same promise, didn't it? And it was an enabling thing, very much so. And I think I was thinking, I coined this phrase last night when after I'd had a couple of pints. The idea that all these, I don't know what it is. It's like $200 billion a quarter are going into AI research. So they're not going to be doing things that are as niche as this. So what we probably need, rather than LLMs, we need SLMs, small language models, which are specific to a very specific thing. If that gets used anywhere, I would like to just put a marker down and say that was my idea. But Paulie, I mean, assistive, right? Assistive. I know you enjoy the process and you have strong feelings about how it makes you feel about your own creativity. But nonetheless, sometimes if you had an AI that could just go, could you just tidy this session up, please, and color code all the regions, name the audio files, and put it in some sort of database so that when I come back to it, it's really easy to find out what's going on, bounce the stems, and then while I go and have my tea. That would be a useful thing, right?
I still wouldn't. But I'm a proper neo-Luddite. I am a proper hardcore neo-Luddite, and I feel that I might retreat away from electronic music altogether at some point if AI continues to progress and create music that is, because some of it is really quite indistinguishable now, and if I, as an autistic person, I rely on the spectacle of my abilities basically to get through life. So I'm going to go to the thing, I'll retreat to the thing which will still give me spectacle, which will be playing acoustic instruments. So I feel that one day I'll just end up being a pianist or an acoustic guitar player again, because it's something that can't be touched. It's something that AI can't rape from me.
Apart from when they make the robots that can do it, but then that's a bit further down the line.
Yes.
Right, we'll hold that thought. That's an interesting one.
But with a range of keyboards, here's the thing. I grew up with a range of keyboards. It was my start in music, which is fantastic. I did a pop keyboard course with Technics, who made keyboards at the time, as well as, the turntables, the 1200 turntables and stuff like that. They used to make a range of keyboards. So I've been watching with interest, basically, the arrangers over the years. And there is some kind of intelligence already in them. So I know in Tyros 5, which is just before Genos, when you played one of the string ensembles in certain modes, you didn't, like on the normal keyboards, just get a multi-sample of strings. It actually dished out the notes to ensemble players. So it'd dish out your lowest note to like double bass samples. It'd dish out your middle notes to cello and viola players, and then it would dish out your high note to a violin player. So there is already that kind of thing going on in some quite clever stuff, and that kind of scripting stuff is, I think, where I personally draw the line with this kind of stuff. Things kind of let you switch multi-samples and things like that. I make use of in order to get some realistic things. But as I said, you know, the more and more AI comes in, the less people are interested and go, oh, you're a musician. Well, that's nothing, you know. You're an electronic musician. That's nothing. Look what I can do with AI in 1 minute. You know, your rumor synths, nothing. I might retreat. Back to. I'm possibly pessimistic on this, but you know, I might retreat to playing my zither on it up in a tree house.
That sounds,
you know, chilling.
Well, it ties in with the way that people are now kind of being driven towards having experiences rather than just kind of, you know, watching something or whatever. So and it's a similar thing, isn't it? You know, they're just, it's by proxy. We'll hold that thought. We'll come back with a question from SYNTH SAMURAI in the chat room, actually, and then but for now we'll just go over to our friends over at Native Instruments.
I use Kontakt literally every day. I have so many Kontakt instruments.
I don't think I've heard anything more realistic than these libraries.
It sounds like a live piano in the room.
It just allows me to just spread my wings with production.
Yeah, Kontakt is half price now. Save, I think it's up until probably a couple of days from now. I'm not entirely sure where it runs out. Sometime mid-August, I believe. So save that. And also, there is a code if you're any other Native Instruments stuff. You go over to Native Instruments, use the code Sonic10, save 10%. Thank them very much for their support. Fantastic. Right. The question. Oh, yes, I remembered. I was going to do a question, wasn't I? Right. Okay, so let's see if this works. This is probably not going to work either. I've got my fabulous system that does or doesn't. Where is it? QQ. There we go. Ah, yeah, there we go. Well, it's from SYNTH SAMURAI. So, Ben, do you have Moog? Sorry, I'm so sorry. Moog Muse Fever like everybody else? That's a good question. So I guess we'll find out. Do you?
No, not really. I mean, I think it looks cool. I'm interested in it. I'm excited to play with one. Not enough to commit to doing a video and getting one here. You know, it had been. I was asked if I would be interested in one, and honestly, just with the move and everything, and the Paulee Brute 12, I was already delaying the Paulee Brute 12, and so I was like, I know that this is probably gonna resonate with me a little bit more, just due to the previous one resonating so well. So I just kind of did a pick and choose on that. But I am excited to play with one, and I think, I think Cameron Venus Theory wanted to come visit, and I think he wanted to bring one just to film part of a video here at some point, like a month down the road or something. So I definitely
could have a poly off. I mean, obviously the Muse only has 8 voices in the 12, but you could have like a poly battle. Think of the thumbnail, Ben. Think of the thumbnail, for God's sake, man. Where's your instinct?
That's probably what he's thinking of. So it's probably So that would be cool. And yeah, I don't have anything against it. I think I'm just overwhelmed with, and the gear content that I do is not as much as before. So I really do pick and choose.
Exactly.
Stuff like that. So
I was on recently on Mylar Melodies While We Bleep, and we were talking about the kind of motivation and the kind of whole 0 day thing. Once you're in that cycle, once you're doing the 0 day stuff, and there's if it's a non-transactional, it's very one-sided because you end up doing it just to hit the marketing deadline, which means effectively you're doing it for free just to hit their kind of. I mean, I'm not against that. I understand why it happens, but I just sort of think, you know what? I don't want to. I'd rather take my time, and do something else, or prioritize. I think that's an admirable place to be. So yeah, there's the question. Okay, well, the other thing that you did actually, and this will apply to everybody, I think this is a good question, which is, let me see if I can do this, because obviously nothing's working at all at the moment. So let me find out if this one. Let me just get this one. Right. Oh yeah, here we go. I'll play a little bit of this. I think it might work. What's that? It's.
Yo, last year I made a video stating that I would no longer be making any gear review videos, particularly ones that are like.
I'm going to fast forward this. This was you
like a vending machine
rating
or a roll
your
of
gear.
toilet paper, or any winner of the Democrat.
I just thought this was such a. I mean, it's again, it's quite a crass idea in a way, but because you're moving, I'll explain the premise rather than play the whole video because it's a bit meta while you're actually on here. So you moved, and while you were going through all your stuff, you think, well, I'll rank it, I'll rate it. Did it help you actually? Did you get rid of stuff and prioritize things, or did it all come with you anyway? I suppose is the question I would ask.
Some of it I got rid of. Most of it I kept just because I guess one thing when you're making a move and when you have that much stuff and when it's your studio and it's also your house and everything else, one thing that I immediately had to tell myself is, okay, well, if there was a time when I was going to get rid of things, that time is now past because I have this much time before I need to move from this house to this house. So right now, all we're doing is putting things in boxes and organizing where they're going to go. And so I do have stuff in storage, and I probably, now I probably am a little bit more educated on how to make that decision. But what I really want to do, anything that I want to get rid of that I was sent to for free or at a massive discount for this channel, I would rather give to a nonprofit, to like a children's education nonprofit. There's a couple here in Atlanta that I've been talking to. In general, there is something conflicty of interesty feeling about selling it, about putting it on Reverb or something. And also my channel is a nonprofit. So it's not technically illegal, but it just seems like it might be a conflict of interest or something. And so I've been a little, but if I ended up getting like a massive IRS bill or something like that, then I'd probably
that's fine. I suppose the thing is also, I mean, this kind of raises the question, isn't it? It's a variant on the question. You've got to leave. There's a tidal wave coming. What do you grab from the studio? What's your top tier stuff? I mean, I'll come back to you, Ben, with that because you've obviously been through the process, so you might well have a couple of ideas of that. What about you, Paulie? Is that what's the thing that you would save first? Aside from obviously family and memories and all of those kind of things. Just
my children. I've got to say.
Yeah, well, clearly, yeah. That goes without saying. Well, I assume it does.
Watching, she'd be like, "What do you mean you'd save a V-Synth over the children?" No, I'd probably save. See, the thing is, I really like my Korg DSS-1, but it's huge, so I'm not getting out.
You wouldn't be able to run very fast with it.
I wouldn't be able to run very fast with it, so I think a more sensible answer would probably be my Amiga 1200 because I can just grab it under one arm and Scarpa.
Right,
and that's
and
it.
some floppy disks as well, presumably, and the power supply.
And a couple of floppy disks and a power supply, maybe the trackball. And
what about a CRT?
That'd be me.
Does it need a CRT or does it run on LED?
It doesn't. It's got RGB SCART out, so it can display on a modern LCD panel quite well. So I'd be there. I'd be all right. I'd still be making music. And I'd be fine. So
well, that's good.
But yeah, the children first.
Yeah. So Matt, I mean, you're going through this process as well. You've just packed up your studio. You're going to be moving again. Have you had a sort of a process of reevaluation of what you've got, what you need to take with you, what you maybe you're going to get rid of? I mean, do you have is there a methodology to it?
Absolutely, 100%. One is it's become quite evident that my modular systems just got out of hand, and for one reason or another, and I'm using it. I use it all. I use so many of the modules in different ways. And I've really enjoyed that workflow for a long time. And I think one of the biggest, if I want this new studio to feel like a real new, open the door and it's fresh and it's new and I want to feel inspired, then I want to change my tools. And so I'm thinking of potentially ditching all of the modular stuff and going and just working with very, very few tools. There's a couple of particular things that I'd like to get, like something like the Vermona Performer, use that along with the Perquons drum machine and some delay pedals and just that, maybe like 3 or 4 instruments just for,
wow.
just really focus and concentrate on them. One thing that I guess I miss with modular is it doesn't really have that, when you pick up a synth, whatever synth it is, it has a personality and the things are always in the same place and you connect with it. With modular, obviously that's always changing because of your configurations and things. And maybe it's just I'm romanticizing this, and maybe it's not something that should be a factor. But I do miss working with a particular synthesizer or particular drum machine that is always got the things in the same place, and I totally sort of connect with it on a deep level, you know, or whatever it is.
Well, it's muscle memory.
I'm romanticizing it here. I just feel like a change.
That's interesting.
That's what I'm thinking.
I'm just going to put this one up, which is a fairly sort of, I would grab the external hard drive, which keeps my time machine backups. Insurance would replace all the hardwares. That's obviously the kind of that's the practical answer to the question.
I know, Ben.
I mean.
I would also recommend, cloud storage too. Like,
well, that's
concerned about your data.
Yeah, that's true. I know, Ben. I mean, you've been through this process. I mean, is there a thing that you felt? I did watch it, but I don't remember all of the kind of the ins and outs of what was poop and what was top drawer. But there were some surprising things in there. I mean, is there one specific thing that you think I couldn't do without that? I mean, I guess that's not a guitar, because obviously that can have a lot of purpose to it.
Yeah, I mean, my piano. That one I actually had to put money and effort into moving. But so obviously the Yamaha Disclavier, which I never even use the MIDI of unless it's like for a YouTube or an Instagram video or something like that. I don't really. I just like playing it. Something about analog, or not analog, but mechanical instruments. You sort of love them a little bit more. It was kind of interesting. There was the Music Tech podcast, and they asked me to like select 5 things or something like that I would take with me to like a dream studio, but I can only take 5 things.
Oh, you did that? Yeah, I was with those journalists last night. Actually, the Dream Studio. They said you'd been.
Oh, really? Yeah. They got a little bit. Annoyed because I chose. I think I chose a servant as one of the things I would bring. But yeah, no.
Have you got one now?
Just Lucy here. No. So I oddly enough, the Osmos was a big one. Because I was like, well, it's like a MIDI controller that supports, MPE and stuff like that. It kind of tickles me in the way it tickles the guitarist in me, because I could use vibrato with my fingers and stuff. And then, it's just such a unique thing. And I do feel like I could probably spend a lifetime in the Hacken editor
trying to program it.
And also that's kind of, you could build on that too, and so that's like one of those things where it's like that is one of those synths where if I had the time, like if I just had nothing but time, that would be such an ideal thing. The problem with it is that I don't have enough time to like get good at playing the Osmos as good as I want to be, or as good as programming it. So yeah, that would probably be the surprising one, because it does seem like it does seem like people have had a little bit of a mediocre, I guess, enthusiasm level about that synth, which surprised me. I actually thought it was
I love playing it, and it's great. But the thing that I keep finding, and I think lots of people, because it's so easy to fall between the notes and play quarter tones, everything you play starts to sound kind of a certain sort of geographical origin, just because you feel like, because you can play that, for which you haven't been able to play it before on a regular keyboard, because the notes don't go that. I must admit, I don't have a Paulee Bow. I mean, there is one still here. They keep saying, do you want us to pick it up? And I haven't done. This is the 12. It will have to go back soon. But I chose the Paulee Bow 6 in my version of that particular podcast as my main synth, because it's a MIDI controller as well. All of those knobs will send stuff. But the 12 would probably be it, because it's got that unusual keyboard as well. So I suppose that would make sense. But I think there's a difference, isn't there? There's things that you think practically, what can I use? But then there are things like, I've got synths that I've had since I used to do remixes, and it's like that has that I've got a kind of an emotive attachment to that, because it's a memory, but it's not something I necessarily use, and so those things are kind of hard. In fact, there's a question from Sqwook via I think it was via IRC. Is it the difference between being drawn to instruments rather than tools? And I think that's probably a fairly valid point. I don't know if that's something that you kind of make sense of. And it sort of goes along with what you were saying, Matt, rather than a collection of modules, which in separation are not instruments, generally speaking. A collection of them that's in a fixed point. But so yeah.
Yeah, I've been dwelling on that a little bit since we're talking about that, and I suppose one of the things that I could do, which is a beautiful thing about modular, is I could actually make small instruments from a selection of modules and call that an instrument, which I can actually design myself, build myself, and go, there it is, put it in that box, and it's there. And maybe that might be an interesting way to work, you know, and keep me.
Well, that's why those that's why those keyboards, the Create Audio little keyboards that are a bit like the Waldorf ones, are great, because you can just go, here's a nice collection of things that I can make into a performance instrument with a keyboard on it, and you know, and once you've filled the case up just so, you sort of almost feel like, well, I don't really want to take it apart again, because I'll never fit the things together as I wanted.
And I think the other thing is I probably regret selling half of my modules anyway. And there's, you know, I've had that on a few cases in the past where I've sold stuff and I'm like, oh, really? You know, and not because they've gone up in value. Like I've had Junos and Korg Monopolies and stuff like that.
We've all got those terrible
808s and you know, they're worth a lot of money now. It's not about the monetary value. It was about the fact that at different iterations of my studio setups, I had moments where I was like really enjoying having like 808, Juno, KSP8 effects unit, and a digital desk, and that was it. You know, it was just
classic,
really simple set. Yeah, and there's something about that. There's something about that, and. But then also, I'm also considering, you know, what I'm doing in terms of future employment, and whether I'm focusing more on moving image or content creation, marketing, that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of things that I'm thinking about at the minute. But I'm also trying not to be too serious about it, and I'm also trying to keep this side of things fun, because you know, you've got to have, this is your creative space, right? You know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, no, most definitely.
Yeah, I think that's true.
No,
now is not a great time to have a music career as a business. You know, that's just
well, that's very
unfortunately
true.
That's something that I say ad nauseum to everybody, is like, you need to make sure you're having fun making music, and that just making music is a gift, and that it's something that you really enjoy doing, or even making noise, whatever it is. You know, this whole thing, it is. We are all very fortunate to have this dopamine rush from sound, and you need to appreciate that, because if all you're looking at is Spotify metrics and things like that, you're gonna hate it, and it's gonna ruin it for you. And so
yes,
that's very well said. I mean, we've got to the hour slot, and we kind of almost, you know, that feels like a really good position to leave it on a sort of a positive note, because I think, you know, we should do that. I would also like to just say our condolences to Dan Clark's family, who was the chap who was the demonstrator for Behringer, and we used to work for Roland, also Howard Jones, and he sadly passed away very shortly ago. This show is dedicated to him, so I hope everybody, all his friends and family, are okay, and everybody's doing all right. Okay, right. Well, I think I'm going to wrap things up now, because as it tends to happen, we could go on for a really long time. It's been absolutely a real pleasure to have you, Ben, and thank you so much. I know we probably didn't get halfway through the things that we were going to talk about. So you're now, because one of them was, you know, your videos, obviously, your science videos, your research videos are amazing. You know, that's one thing that, you know, keep doing what you're doing. We love it. You know, it's really great stuff. So, and I guess you're going to go crack on and work with that later. So more videos coming from you. Do they all go on your main YouTube channel, or have you got a kind of, you differentiating it now?
Yeah, they all come from the main YouTube channel, and right now I can't really give too many details, but I'm in the process of thinking about moving to a more sort of, I guess, television format, or, you know, subscription format, like from a different big company. But yeah, I'm sort of like going through, and obviously I'm pretty picky and stubborn about a lot of things, and so one of them being, you know, scientific accuracy, and so that's. But for now, YouTube is where they all live. Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, it still works, generally speaking, but as we know, it's all being hoovered up to train AI. Matt, what's next for you then?
What's next for me? Yeah, I've got to finish off this project with Arturia, and a few things that I can't talk about, which I'd love to. So not giving
Next
too much
time.
away there. Can I just say somebody's just supported me on Bandcamp, Flow State. If you're watching, thank you so much for supporting me there on Bandcamp.
That's lovely.
And I've actually I kind of soft launched a Patreon as well. If people are interested in checking that out,
Everybody's doing it.
Where you can get my music, and you can. I'm also doing some kind of one-to-one and group tutorials on various things to do with production, performing with technology, and so on and so forth. Go check that out. But yeah, it's been great being back on. I haven't been here for a while, and it's so good to reconnect with the community, if you like. It's good to just stop sometimes when you're super busy and just hang out with you guys and chat all things.
Well,
music,
it's like I say, it's the excuse to be able to sit and talk about stuff that nobody in your family is interested in listening to.
Yeah.
most of the people at the pub have no interest, but we could talk about it. Paulie, for you said you're very busy.
Yes.
I know we've got a track from you coming out on Friday as part of the Friday Fun. Your first Friday Fun. I have to say, it's a bloody cracker as well. It's really good. I can't wait. That's with the Michigan Synthworks 810, isn't it? So that's featuring that and a bunch of Amiga stuff as well. Yeah, I can't wait to set that. Yeah, excellent stuff.
Yes, amazing stuff. Thanks for having me on.
You're welcome. All welcome. And so I'm going to switch to the celebrity squares, and we could all wave out as we do the credits. We've got a new credits section. I'm hoping so much that it works because it's for the superstar supporters. Get a little bit of a kind of screen splash and stuff. You know, it's all part of the deal, Patreon, and we do appreciate our Patreon supporters. Ben, lovely to see you. I hope to see you in person at some place in the world again soon.
Yeah, probably now.
Or on the show. Anytime you want to come on, you're more than welcome. It's always a pleasure. Right, that's it for Sonic Talk 811. Thanks very much, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye now.
Bye.